So my cousin sister is visiting the States and she asked me to make brownie. Folks, I am Saurabh Sidikari and today we'll make brownies. So a brownie can have a cakey texture and a fudgy texture. Essentially, cakey texture is a bit spongy, like a cake, but a fudgy texture in between, it is more like gooey and chewy, but on the top and the bottom, it's more firmer. I like the fudgier version, but I have made something that is just in between. Hopefully, you like my recipe. Let's check out the ingredients. So in ingredients, we have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. This is about 180 grams, 220 grams of dark chocolate, and I'm taking two variants. One is about 86% dark chocolate, and the other one is semi-sweetened dark chocolate. Use about 1 cup of unsalted butter, 5 eggs. This is an Expresso instant coffee. You can use espresso powder or instant coffee as well. We'll use about 1 tablespoon of this. This essentially enhances the flavor of chocolate. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. This is Dutch processed cocoa powder, which is typically darker in color. You can also use the natural cocoa powder, which will use cocoa powder about half a cup, 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence, 250 grams of white sugar. This is about 1.25 cup, and this is 1 cup of dark brown sugar. This is about 220 grams. And salt, we'll use about 1.5 teaspoons. Now, among all these ingredients, you feel free to choose your favorite chocolate. It can be milk chocolate as well. Sugar, you can substitute the brown sugar with white sugar as well, and you can skip the espresso, but using these ingredients actually gives you the best flavor for this recipe. Now first, I'm greasing the pan a bit, and this will help the parchment paper to stick. So now I'll add the parchment paper here, and then I'll add more butter on this side of the pan. And it is better if you have a metal pan. I don't have a metal pan, so I'm using a glass pan. Adding the parchment paper this way. Perfect. And I've heated the oven at 350 Fahrenheit to start baking. Now let's start by melting the butter. Now the butter has melted, as you see. It's hot. So I'll add all the chocolates, and I've cut the chocolates into small pieces for it to melt easier. So I'll add all the chocolates and then add 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and we'll add the remaining cocoa powder with the flour, and 1 tablespoon of espresso powder. I'll just make sure that the chocolate is submerged in butter, and I'll let it sit for about 2 minutes. After the chocolate melts, then we can combine it and make a ganache. Now it has been 2 minutes, so I'll mix the chocolate, and it should become thicker like a ganache. Now I'll use my hand mixer to mix this properly. Ganache is done. I'll keep this aside and start the next egg whipping process. So I've taken a large bowl. I'm adding all the sugar to it. This is white sugar. This is brown sugar. About 1.5 teaspoons of salt. 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence. So I'll just add 1 egg and start to combine slowly. So now we'll make this mixture absolutely fluffy. So I'll beat it at high speed. You see, this is becoming paler in color. This should become absolutely pale in color and very, very fluffy. This is how we're incorporating air to it. And this is what makes those thin layers on the brownie. Now you see this mixture is so fluffy. There are small bubbles coming out. This mixture is ready. I'll start adding the ganache to it. I have the ganache here and the whisk. So this is incorporated well. Now I'll start mixing the flour. To start adding the flour, I've taken a sieve and I'm adding the flour here, and we'll add 6 more tablespoons of the dark cocoa, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now I'll take a spatula and start adding the flour gradually and mix this mixture. Just fold it enough to incorporate all the flour in this lovely brown deliciousness. This will start feeling a bit thicker. Perfect. So there are no more lumps or anything. So now we can add it to the pan. So now adding this batter to this pan, and this is a 9 by 13 pan. So the batter is ready, making sure that the surface is even for an even rise. So spreading the batter out. Yep, I think this should do. Now I'll bake it for 30 minutes in the oven at 350 Fahrenheit or 180 degree centigrade. A couple of minutes, like this was like 20 minutes into baking, you see the skin has formed and it has risen quite a bit. I'll just tap it, then add some sea salt on the top. Salt essentially always enhances the flavor for sweet goods. Just a bit of salt, and then bake it again for another 10 minutes. I think is remaining, 10 to 15 minutes. So essentially now the brownies are done. I tested it and it's fudgy inside, but it's not wet, and it took about 35 minutes. I'll just tap it a bit. So I'll take it out on a wire rack to cool it down after about 5 minutes of it sitting in the baking pan. So it's been about 30 minutes and the brownie is cool. So I'll take out the wire rack, and the signature of a brownie is it should have this shiny skin on the top, which is flaky. And now let's cut the brownie. I'm using a bread knife, so we'll have to wipe the brownie a bit. So let me show you how the texture is. You see this is extremely shiny on the top. That's the signature of a brownie, and it is a bit fudgy in the between, but it has some pores. That means it's cakey as well. So this was the recipe of brownies. See, these have turned out so good. Shiny on top, but fudgy and a bit dense, cakey on the inside. That's how a brownie should be. If someone says that brownie is like a cake, it's not. It should have a shiny top. That's the signature of a brownie. So try out this recipe and let me know how it turned out for you in the comment section. And yes, if you like my video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.